Hey everybody, it's me Truck again. What's going on? This is going to be my second iteration on Stories from the Hood by Truck Turner, 1968 Truck Turner. And today what I want to talk about is Browning Street experience. You know, my other videos you'll actually see that I made a live video. I drove down the street, showed you guys where I live. The video quality wasn't good at all. And the it was kind of cut off because my tripod to hold the camera was messing up. But it's all good. I plan on traveling all throughout Philly and Camden soon. I've been having some difficulties and stuff like that, but it's all good. So today I'm going to talk about my Browning Street experience. I moved to Browning Street probably in 1983 or 84. When I was still in high school, I was about 15, 16 years old, and it was it was one of the most beautiful experiences I had ever living in any neighborhood. It's probably number one. My first experience living in West Philly, Overbrook, was the first because childhood memories, and then the second was Browning Street because I lived there the longest out of any place I lived because I was born in North Philly. Lived out Oakons, and my mom was from Style Street, North Philly, and all that stuff. So, basically, we're going to be talking about today a real close friend of mine that used to live on Browning Street with us, and I'm not going to say his real name, so I nicknamed him Robbing Hood. In other words, Robbing Hood, and his merry little thieves. He had 10 little thieves that he rolled with, right? So basically, to understand this story fully and completely, you have to understand the relationship with Camden and the surrounding communities. The surrounding communities always treated people from Camden horribly. You know what I'm saying? South Jersey and Philly are very segregated. You have to understand that. White people live in their section, black and Hispanics, the Puerto Ricans and the Boricans and the Dominicans and the Asians, we all live together, typically together in our own little areas. So as a consequence of that, there's a lot of animosity. So like me, for instance, when I lived in Camden, I only had one job when I was in Camden that I can go to because all the factories had closed down, all the industrial parks had closed down. So we always had everybody in the city pretty much always worked out in Cherry Hill, Haddonfield, Pennsauken, somewhere out in the suburbs. You always had to drive 40, 45 minutes out of the suburbs, and when you left the city, Pennsauken used to have this roadblock set up where the cops would be there with the motor vehicles to inspect your vehicle. So you be on your way to work, you pull out of Camden, and the cops be flagging you over. They check your license, your insurance, your registration, your sticker, if you had tinted windows. They go through your car like like with a fine-tooth comb. So they would harass us every time we left out of the city. You know what I'm saying? I had a long incident. I had some rough incidents with Pennsauken police too back then, right? So basically, even though my stuff was legit. So basically, there was a lot of animosity. Even in high school, you could feel the tension because when I played football and I wrestled, it was like our team, Camden High School or Woodrow Wilson, I went to Camden High School. When our team showed up in the suburbs, man, they wanted to beat us so bad, man. I mean, I remember we were playing a game at Washington Township, right? And they're called the Minutemen. And on their field, what they actually have a cannon that they shoot when they score a touchdown, right? And then the ambulance, sounds the ambulance, sirens and the lights come on. Well, we played them and we were whipping their tails. I mean, we were getting touchdown after touchdown into the end zone. And what the referees would do, soon as somebody caught the ball or ran the ball into the end zone, a flag would come out the pocket and they would call something on the line. And any of you guys know in the football that play football, if you played on the line, there's an infraction at every single play. No player gets off. There's always a thumb going to somebody's eye. Somebody's always doing something crazy on the line. So that's what they were doing. They kept throwing the flag on us, but they wouldn't do it to them, right? So they beat us by they were trying to dog us, man. But, so that's the type of animosity between Camden, especially back then, in the 80s and before that between Camden and the suburbs. That's why they hated our basketball team. So our basketball team was actually rated #1 in the nation like 2-3 years straight, something like that. We've had a lot of pro basketball players, all kinds of basketball scholarships come out of Camden High School. You just look it up, you'll see. And look up the Camden connection, and then basically, let me tell you something. So my little homies across the street, when I first moved to that street, Brown Street, they were like 12, 13. But as I got older, became an adult, these guys, I love their family. I still love them to this day, man. They cool people. Their mom and their dad, they awesome. Their dad was a tractor trailer driver. He actually owned his own tractor trailer. As a matter of fact, my brother went to college for accounting, and he used to do his taxes. And the guy was actually making like $5,000 a week in like late 80s, like 88, 89. And in the early 90s, he's making even more because I think he went and bought like 2 or 3 trucks. So, but his sons, unfortunately, because he was always out and they were kind of wild, they fell in with some guys that was stealing cars, right? And then they wind up being the leader of the 10 Merry Little Thieves, right? So I'm gonna take you to some stories. So when I was living there, man, I used to I love music. Like, I was addicted to music, man. So, because I into the music stuff when I was young, so I used to have this big black desk in front that sat in front of the window, 2 windows, and I had all my stereo equipment and all my turntables and all that stuff laid out, CDs and all that stuff, So I used to just sit there after work. And I used to just sit back and chill and listen to my music. Shoot, man, listen to some dance hall, some house music, some old school hip hop. Well, it wasn't old school back then. Some Mary J. Blige, the whole crew, right? The Roots was hot popping back then, So basically, it was probably around 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm laying in bed just listening to some music. It was just like a Saturday night. I'm just listening to some music. I don't know why I wasn't out in town. Normally back then, I've been out chilling, right? But I wasn't. So I was just laying back in the bed, sleeping, and all of a sudden I hear all these sirens, and they were way off in the distance, so I wasn't worried about nothing, right? So I heard all these sirens, and they just kept getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. Then I started hearing the cop car engine. You know how they go, vroom. So I was like, oh, snap, something's going on. So I get up out the bed, and I sit in my chair at the desk, and I'm looking out the window, both sides of the window. I'm like, what's going on? And man, I hear I hear Robin Hood pull up in the car screeching because they used to steal cars, man, from the suburbs, and they used to do crash up derby because they hated Haddonfield, Cherry Hill, and Pennsauken. So all 10 of them guys used to go out to the suburbs and steal cars. Matter of fact, it was so bad that they were telling me that when they hit a block, they stole like 10 cars off of one block, like 10, or 10 cars from the same like township. So they would just like get a stolen car train and head right back to Camden and play crash up derby with the cars. They would sell the parts to the cars. They would do all that kind of stuff. And always at night, you always hear them screeching up and down the street with SUVs, everything. The Jeep Cherokees, when they first came out, they were dogging them and all that, right? So, okay, Robin Hood pulls up. He's scared. I think he's probably about 19 at that time. He's a real young guy. So he's scared because he had a wagon train of cops behind him. I mean, all those townships and more were chasing him. He took them on a wild goose chase all through all those townships, got scared, and then pulled up in front of his own home. And man, let me tell you something. The cops was coming this way, that way. Someone was running up the street, down the street. He gets in the house. He slams the door. He locks it. The cops try to get up into the porch. It had like a closed-in brick porch. And they were trying to get up into the door, but the steps, man, were like real steep. So they couldn't like soft solder it. They couldn't kick it because it was elevated above the sidewalk. So they couldn't do it. So they were just banging on the door trying to push it open and all that kind of stuff. So what happened was Robin Hood's dad, the guy that owns all the trucks, he would sleep on the couch. So he gets up sees he hears his son, running the house, all fast, slam the door, the whole nine. So he gets up, he sees all the Christmas lights. You know what I'm saying? The whole block was lit up, and the whole block is awake by now. And because when the cops were chasing him, they had their sirens on. They didn't shut them off. When they got there, they were in hot pursuit, right? So the cops is trying to get in the house. They're banging on the door, and you can hear him screaming, "Who is that? What's going on?" Because he don't know what's going on, right? So and then he finally opens the door. They yank him out the house, and they threw him up against the car. And he's an older gentleman, and he's probably one of the most respected dudes in my neighborhood and the city, right? And when the whole neighborhood saw the cops, these cops from out of town, because it wasn't Canada police doing this, when we saw him do that, I was sitting at my window. I almost raised up, to scream out the window, to say something. But my older neighbors were screaming at the cops, these cops that weren't from Camden. And I'm telling you, if anything goes down in the hood, if you got, like, I'm older now, right? If I yell out and I say something is wrong, that gives younger kids a green light to do stuff. And there was plenty of young bucks out there that would have did stuff. And I'm telling you, the elders at that time were yelling at the cops. And when the cops saw that and they saw how the young bucks was looking at them, they started treating his father nicely. You know what I'm saying? So while they're grabbing him, they got him in cuffs. They're up against the car. They didn't shove him in the car or nothing. But he's cussing, he's angry, and all my other neighbors yelling at the cops. The Camden police showed up, and basically they went up in the house. But Robin Hood came out the bathroom window on the second floor. In Camden, they got those roofs that go all the way down the street. Just one mono roof to the porches. And basically, he came out the window, and I'm looking out the window. I'm like laughing, like, yo, he came out the window on him, and he laid up against the wall where the window was, so nobody on the ground could see that he was up on the roof, laid out flat, right? The only reason why they caught him, because they were all through the house and everything, with his mom and his brother and his sister and all that, but the only reason why they found him where he was is because when he heard his father yelling and screaming like they were hurting him, he stood up. As a matter of fact, he was on the roof. He was about to jump down off the roof onto them cops. I'm telling you, it was real bad. Because when we saw how they were treating him, man, everybody was highly upset, man. I had some neighbors that was really rough. Matter of fact, one of my neighbors, I'll be making a video about him, Mr. Ben. He was actually an ex-cop, and he didn't like what was going on at all when he saw what happened. So basically, he finally he went to the cops, came to the window, the bathroom window in the house, and they dragged him in. I guess they beat him up in the bathroom. He said, yeah, they dragged him in, hit his head against the tub and all this kind of stuff. So they took him to jail. That was the only time he actually, I believe, from my best recollection, that he actually did time for stealing cars. Because prior to like maybe 1992, the police never, fingerprinted if you stole a car. People stole a car. They didn't start doing that till later when it got real popular. I don't know if you guys remember that movie New Jersey Drive about Newark. Stealing cars was real popular back there. A lot of guys were just stealing cars, crashing them up, selling the parts, doing this, that, and other. So he got caught for that. He did a little bit of time, I think 2 years, but he had a lawyer, so that's why he only did 2 years, because his pop had plenty of money. He was out of jail the next day. He had a lawyer. I think he did like 18 months to 2 years. He was out. It was just like that because they had money. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, his mom was a stay-at-home mom. She didn't have a job, right? So basically, no, she did have a job, but it was just something to do, right? For insurance, so he could live, right? So basically, those were exciting times, man. I mean, imagine just hearing them cars coming up and down. I remember one time they were squealing wheels with a Jeep Cherokee, and the drivetrain just dropped. All you heard was bang, boom. You know what I'm saying? But reason why they were doing it is because the animosity that was built up in the city from what the suburbs were doing to us by harassing us, giving us tickets, following us around in the Cherry Hill Mall, the Morristown Mall. If we go see somebody in the suburbs, the cops will follow us around. People calling the cops on us. And one of the traditions as a black man in New Jersey at that time, racial profiling actually started in New Jersey. That's where the terminology came from. What they would do if you were black, they would actually pull you out the car and throw you on the ground. That was the first thing you did. They didn't want to see your license or registration. They pull you out the car and throw you straight on the ground. I don't know how many of my boys that happened to. They never did that to me because of my size. One time, matter of fact, I was in Cherry Hill coming off the Ellsberg Circle, for you guys that know the area, and I was going to work, and I saw the cop coming out in the circle, and I knew he looked at me. He was paying attention because I had a nice car. Big guys, we always got to have nice cars because we can't fit in no Toyota, right? So basically, he was following me. So I messed up just a little bit, and he pulled me over. So I was like, man, I hope this guy ain't trying to throw me on the ground. So I just got out the car. He got on his microphone like, "You're back in the car," when he saw how big I was. He saw my size 15 step out the door, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? And, when I get out the car, I just rise and rise and rise, right? You know what I'm saying? So, so it was a lot of animosity, and they did it so bad that my boy Robin Hood, they actually tried to tag him with stealing 489 cars in one summer, because all 10 of them, that's all they did every night. They stole cars and they sold the parts, sold what was in the cars and everything. So that's my hood story for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me up on Instagram. And remember, Jesus is Lord. God can deliver you from this. My boy Robin Hood is a born again Christian, right? So he also he's a truck driver. He followed behind his fathers. Both of the brothers. They both one of the younger brother actually has like 3 or 4 tractor trailers. He's making all kinds of money. And then the older brother, he's been driving for a long time. All right, so you guys be blessed. Remember, Jesus is coming soon. Look around the world. Look what's going on around you. All this immorality, all these earthquakes, all this other kind of stuff, man. Jesus is coming soon. Prepare your heart and your mind for him. Because once he comes and you do not know him personally, you will go to hell. God bless you. Love you, fellas. Peace. And ladies, peace.